Mr. Chairman, thank you, gentlemen, for being here and for your service to our country. General Brown, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to follow up on a number of things my colleagues have brought up, but I want to ask you very specifically, is it your best military advice to the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of Defense to continue to cut the defense budget to the point where we're now below 3% of our GDP? Is that your best military advice?
You know, I give more advice on operational capability. But,
you guys are very good at not answering questions.
But I will also tell you, one of the things we will do is actually continue to advocate for the resources required for the Joint Force. And this is an area that I will continue to work not only with my boss, the Secretary, but also with this committee.
Mr. Secretary, Senator Cotton, I think, asked you about striking energy assets in Russia, particularly refineries. You sort of said, maybe there's better places. I don't want to say it the way you said, but better places for them to strike. Hasn't energy become a weapon in the war in Russia and Ukraine, and frankly in Iran? In fact, regarding Iran, I think somebody said that the position of the administration is to make Iran pay for what they've done, and we'll talk about some of those options, General, in the other session. But aren't sanction waivers for Iran? That doesn't seem like a great way to make them pay. They've now been able to use oil to build their reserves, their financial reserves, from $4 billion, which is what they had at the end of the Trump administration, to $75 billion today. So aren't energy assets actually almost like hitting, say, a military site?
They can and will eventually have an impact on a country's ability to produce military capability. There's no question. The question is, if you're in a fight and you're fighting for your life, is that most important to you, or can something else be addressed that can affect the battlefield, the current battlefield, more effectively?
Okay, if I buy that, couldn't we be doing at least more on our part to provide some of those much cleaner energy resources, rather than letting Iran, for example, continue to sell to China, another adversary, and build up their reserves? Leaving that for a minute, I want to get to something even more specific, and something that I was planning to bring up before all this came up. And that is, and it won't surprise either one of you, that I continue to be concerned, and your combatant commanders are sounding the alarm about the Air Force continually not only eliminating legacy and current ISR assets, but now future ISR assets, with the hope that somehow low Earth orbiting satellites are going to solve the day. And I know you'll say, because we always hear, well, the combatant commanders never have enough ISR. They'll always say they don't have enough, but their concern is escalating along with the deterioration of our airborne ISR assets. I know about the priorities, and we need to do more. But could General Brown, maybe now that you have this broader responsibility than just the Air Force, maybe you could speak to that a little bit for me and help me feel better about it. And again, we can talk about it in more detail later.
Well, Senator, I appreciate the question, and I'll just tell you, based on experience, having been a deputy commander at a combatant command, air component commander, as well as a service chief, and now as a chairman, I do think about all the capabilities that we have, and ISR is one of those. And I will just say it's one of the more contentious issues that we have across the Joint Force. The things we're going to have to continue to do is not only look at the ISR that we do have to keep that moving, but at the same time look at opportunities, particularly, and you mentioned space-based capabilities. That's going to give us access into areas we can't get with some of the ISR that we have today. And so it's the combination of things, how we work together with the Joint Force, and this is an area that I am focused on with the Joint Chiefs and the combatant commands, to ensure that we're making best use of the resources that we do have, the capabilities in ISR, but I'd also say all the other capabilities that we provide for the Joint Force, and how we balance that out to make sure we're putting it in the right place at the right time to provide those capabilities. And so I'm having pretty deep conversations with the combatant commanders and with the Joint Chiefs on these very topics about how do we ensure that we are identifying the areas like ISR that we need to continue to resource, and how we best do that across the service and across the joint force.
Earlier, I can't remember who was asking the questions, but you brought up CCA as a force multiplier. My term, not yours, but I think that's a term commonly used. I think it was in response to NGAD. But I just want to wrap up with this maybe admonition or please, 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 as whether we're talking about CCA or we're talking about something new in space, we have got to find a way to move at the speed of China. And we've talked a little bit about that with regard to R&D, with regard to procurement. We've got to knock down some of these barriers. And please ask us for help if we need to do some things from a policy standpoint so that our innovators are in the fight with you rather than just the 3 or 4 primes that have the same bureaucratic traditions that, frankly, the military has. We've got to become faster. For what is with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Cramer. Senator Warren, please.
Thank you.